I've got an incredible email here. I want to read it to you basically. It's from a security guy who works in the immigration hotels. You're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe this. Now, it's a reasonably lengthy email. I can't show you, obviously, who the guy is. He's actually changed the details in this, and he just says, don't mention the county, basically. Guys, I'll get on with it. But look, if the tape just stop and start again, it's because I've said something like that I shouldn't have said. You know what I mean? So I might have to, but hopefully we'll get through it in one take. I'll be quick. Right, I'll be quick. This guy then, he says, I started working in the illegals industry by accident, really. Started working in a hotel. He gives the county, but I'm going to say the south of England in about late 2020. The hotel had a number of Afghani families. Later, a second hotel was added with more of these families from Afghanistan. He tells me what he was. He was in the security team. I'm just going to say that, quite senior for both hotels. He later moved on to another company providing security and more accommodation for what he says is illegals, of course. He says, during his time, I dealt with a number of incidents perpetrated by these illegal refugees. I don't know whether refugees are illegal, but I know what he means. We just call them illegals, all right? I'll try to put these down as best I can in chronological order. Some of these incidents may not be seen as incidents, probably more occurrences. These are fascinating. I'll tell you right now. I mean, you think you know what's going on. You think you know what's going on, don't you? But anyway. I was asked to go to this place basically by a good friend of this county to manage some aspects of the security teams down there because he ran a company himself basically. And he ran hotels linked to the government's Afghan Relocation and Assistance Policy, ARAP, which was a resettlement scheme that offered eligible Afghans relocation to the UK. These families were brought in from a number of places and they included Pakistan, he says, which is quite interesting, isn't it? It's like, really? Okay, cool. We'll have a read of that, shall we? Now, the first hotel had about 60 plus families, around 200 individuals. Over the months, he got to know these people quite well to such a degree they started to open up to him, he says. You know what I mean? Now, one family had a husband. This is incredible. You read this stuff and you think, if this is one family that the British taxpayer is paying for. Okay, one family had a husband, 2 wives and 6 kids. I noticed that the husband would leave the hotel for around 3 days a week. They weren't under any kind of restrictions at all, apparently. I just found it unusual. So one evening I was talking to the husband and I asked him to tell me his story. He was quite open with it, right? He goes into the story now. I'll tell you now. Right, he lived in London, but was born in Afghanistan. His family escaped in the mid-80s. Over the years, his family built up several businesses, kebab shops, 2 restaurants, that kind of stuff. Fast forward 30-odd years, he's now head of the family, has a very large house in London, where his third wife and 4 children live, where she claims housing benefit paid to him by the council. He saw the fall of Kabul on the news, packed up his other 2 wives and children, flew to Pakistan, bought a cheap car, drove to the local British embassy, and was given temporary documentation. They were then housed in a quarantine centre prior to being flown back to England. Goes back into Bride's Norton, where they all went, of course, which is a Royal Air Force base, where they were again quarantined for about 10 days before being housed in the hotel that he was working at the time. I asked him why he goes off for 3 days every week. Apparently it was to ensure no one was ripping him off in London. He was checking his businesses. I asked him what he was getting out of all of this. It was very simple. Before he had to pay for 3 houses for his 3 wives. This way the government pays for all of this, all his food, all his travel, all his housing and associated costs, everything. That's one person. Now, this guy who wrote to me said, I took this to the Home Office. They knew, but they didn't care. They didn't do anything. And I'm going to carry on with this email, guys, but I just wanted you to say, we need to, we're not school prefects, but we need to take names. Not because we're inciting anything here. We need to know who's responsible for this. And the other thing I would say as well, so if you know people within the Home Office, write these names down. One thing I know for sure about the civil service and the military is people don't like their name getting out. That's the truth. So if you know the names, well, just hold on to those names, because these people should be in a court of law answering for these kind of cases, because every single pound we spend on someone that's fleecing the system like this is maybe a delay of a week of your cancer treatment or your mum's hernia op or whatever, I don't know, whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's not an endless money supply, right? We've got a guy here abusing the system. And it's not him I'm upset he's doing the best for his family. It's the Home Office that allow this to happen. It's the Home Office. And I'll say something else in a minute about these hotels. I'll try and remind myself. This is not the only case. The second husband with only 1 wife did the same. He had lived in the UK for 20 years. One family had a son. I thought he was in his late teens or early 20s. He was registered with the government as being 14. So he had to go to school. At school, he quickly asserted himself, becoming an aggressive bully. assaulting the boys for money. And it says here, I've got to be careful what words I use here, but it says here, assaulting the girls in a manner, I'll say sexually assaulting. I don't know. I don't think I can say words like that, but sexually assaulting the girls. Right. When the boys tried to fight back, the Afghani boy was portrayed as the victim. This is like that Silence film that Tommy Robinson, if you haven't seen it, go and see it. Just do it on the QT, you know what I'm saying? This is before, he says here, this is before Tommy highlighted a similar case in the north. This boy had 2 sets of ID, one for the 14-year-old boy and his real ID as a 21-year-old. This ID he would use on a weekend when he went out drinking. I thought he was supposed to be a Muslim. And I raised this with the Home Office and was told very clearly that was none of my business and that to challenge him was against his rights. I hate to say it, I know where this is going because I know what Englishmen are about. I know what Welshmen are about because I lived in Wales for about 10 years. I know what Scotsmen are about, and I've flown over Northern Ireland. I know what the Irish are about as well. They're not going to stand for this shit. None of the husbands had any right to work or drive in the UK, but several had cars, no licences, MOT or insurance. If you get killed by one of these people, or if you have a major accident, you have to go to the Uninsured Drivers Bureau, and you'll be lucky if you get any money out of them, I tell you. And there's more. I was driving the other day, some guy coming down towards me, down a hill. It was a bloke, right, young boy. And he just literally come down, no indicator, just turned in front of me like that. Coming down, turned in front of me like that. Now, I could see the rate of the car was slowing down. So I just sort of lifted off the gas. He just turned straight in front of me. I was like, when you haven't got time to beep, and when you haven't got time to flash your lights, you've had a near miss, you know what I mean? You've had a near miss. But I just kind of clocked it. It just seemed to be a bit slow and just turned straight away. Mental. That was on a de-restricted 60-mile-an-hour road as well. Now, I managed to stop. I managed to be all right with that. But I think if my wife, would she have seen it? I teach her defensive driving, but how wives are, you know what I mean? Right. It says here, so he had no licence. All these guys had no licence, no MOT, no insurance. I tried to work with the local police, but they were not interested. One guy was working as delivery driver for Deliveroo. Of course he was. We discovered this because we ordered a takeaway. And he came running through the hotel and shouted, "I will get your food." Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. The second hotel opened up a few months later. Another 60 families. This guy helped with the security for that. When they arrived on a Wednesday, the Home Office contact arrived with a load of money. Once the families arrived and were briefed in the restaurant, the heads of each family was taken to a back room and issued with £2,000 cash for each member, no matter of age. Some of these guys had never seen so much money. I didn't realise they did that. That's your money. Isn't that weird that we've even got to say that? I hate that. On the Saturday morning, one of the family heads came in telling me that one of his sons, aged in his late 20s, had not come home that Friday night. So this guy made an investigation, found out his son had been seen on the afternoon of the Friday, changing his phone. He had bought a new phone and SIM card. He destroyed the original phone and SIM card, and he made a phone call and walked out the hotel. He had apparently made arrangements to meet someone in the centre of town. This guy obviously then reported this back to the Home Office, explaining that I found it somewhat disturbing, and there were possibilities it could be linked to terrorism, basically. You don't realise that if you say certain words on your channel, really bad things happen to you. So I'm just taking a bit of a risk by saying these words. I was told not to be so dramatic. Given that these people were termed vulnerable, I took it upon myself to contact the police directly, giving the descriptions, blah, blah, blah. Within minutes, I was told that he was already in custody. He'd been arrested on the morning because he'd been, in the morning city centre, he'd been hitting a woman with a copy of the Quran, who would walk around the city centre dressed as he saw it inappropriately. Oh, but apparently he wasn't the worst brother in this family. His brother already made his presence known to us, arriving on the Wednesday. By the Thursday morning, he had propositioned one of the cleaning staff, as they saw it, for sexy time. The incident was reported to the manager of the hotel, and this guy was asked to have a bit of an investigation. Seems that the guy had come to his door dressed only in a towel, showed the woman the goods, and then made a body rubbing gesture with his hand. When we challenged him, he explained that he wanted shower gel. He became quite a problem over the next few months, harassing all the ladies in the hotel. One felt so unsafe, she left her job, despite the fact that we had a security officer stood outside the door whenever this guy was in, apparently. This guy made a request to be sent back to Afghan, as he hated it here. I tried to arrange this, even taking him to the embassy, but the Home Office refused to send him back. They said the embassy did not represent the Afghani regime. Well, there was problems back then, wasn't there? This was 2020-ish, 2021. Let's have a look. So, whilst he was at the other hotel, he received a phone call asking him to get back urgently. I'm sorry I've got to look away and read this, guys. I'm sorry about that. I'm just trying to expand it a little bit. So he rushed back to the hotel, basically. He was confronted with several police officers and the night team as reported that an Afghani had been walking on the road leading to the hotel where he grabbed a woman walking home from the centre. I mean, this is just one dude's experience. He dragged her into the bushes at the rear of the hotel, but had been seen, luckily, by a police unit driving past. He was challenged, broke away, and ran around the hotel. Says some words I don't understand, but someone saw him come in to the hotel in a panicked state. Together, they reviewed the CCTV. It became clear that the offender was indeed this other brother, was arrested, but he was never charged. He was released into the care of the Home Office, who moved him to another hotel in another county, obviously to go and abuse some other women. Last paragraph here, guys. Long video, sorry. During this time, we had a new male member added to the group. He was the husband of one small family. He was the husband of one small family separated during sort of autumn period. He arrived about 6 weeks later. There was a distinct change in behaviour of the family, less open. The wife started to dress. I read this and it's a horrible thing. I'm going to read you this. And I'd rather you didn't hear this. So I'm going to read you anyway. So I think it's important that we know what's going on. This is not a pleasant thing to hear. So we're 11 minutes into the video now, guys. If you don't want to hear this, just finish the video now. I understand. Just finish the video and you won't have to hear this next bit. It's not very nice. It's not very nice. Okay. So there was a distinct change in the behaviour of the family when this new husband arrived. The wife started to dress in a more modest way. Initially, she wore no headscarf and Western clothes, as did her 12-year-old daughter. When the husband arrived, she started with the Western clothes and a shayla, not too sure what that is, then moved through the various styles, which a week later was a full abaya or kimar. It's a headscarf, is it? I think so. I'm not too sure. The daughter was also dressed in a hijab. The wife was also starting to withdraw from the other women. Classic isolation. On odd occasions, it was reported that she had bruising. Over the next few months, and a great deal of deception and hard work, I managed to get to the point where a non-molestation order was in place. The Home Office ignored the order. The wife was told by other wives that as she was now in the UK, she was legally allowed to refuse sexual intercourse. One night she did. Enraged, the husband raped his daughter to show her who was in charge. He then raped her. He was arrested, never charged, and moved to the same hotel as the first guy out of the county. This hotel was for single male illegals. This guy then says, look, he moved to another company. He says you can't give me any more because I identify him. And I'm happy with that, guys. If you write to me, don't let me identify, or just highlight, don't read this bit, Tim, as this man's done. He says he will share some more experiences, but, if he does too much, obviously he's going to weigh too much scrutiny. One thing he does say here, and the last thing he wrote, was just about Care for Calais and another group called Migrant Help, and how they are at the fences of these hotels, handing leaflets through to tell these people what their rights are. He calls them liberal zealots. They visit every hotel at least twice a week, and they had to kind of beat them away from the fences, basically. They were throwing pamphlets to, this is that kind of virtue signalling liberal, isn't it? Look, guys, I'd love to talk more about this. I wanted to share that email. Hit the comments and tell me what you think about it. I'm sorry it's getting dark out here. It's quite late now. I'll try and get this out for you. I know it's not the greatest video in the world. I do apologise. But look, you know how I'm talking about it, talking about staying safe. This is not me being anti-Muslim or anything like that. I don't care. I used to train Muslims in the Air Force. Of course I did. It didn't matter. It's not about that. It's about people being unsafe in our communities. That's what it's about. So how do we solve that? Make sure you know your community. Make sure you know your neighbours, especially know your neighbours. Knock on the door. I'm your neighbour. We haven't really spoken, have we? I'll look after your place, look after mine. And for the men out there, especially the men, you know what I mean? There's a man code, isn't there? All right, we do expect people to step up. I've got people writing ridiculous things on Twitter at the moment going, well, Tim, I think we should be friends with everyone. I was even down at a lunch with my family, and one of my members of my family was trying to tell me that we should accept anyone that wants asylum or anything, or wants to come to the UK. We should accept everyone, like no borders. I've gone through this before, haven't I? And I said, what? In every country goes anyone. We should accept anyone. So they're not thinking straight, these people. Don't listen to them, all right? Just keep yourself fit, healthy. And that means the mind as well. You know it does, all right? Stop looking at rubbish stuff on the BBC. Forget about that stuff now, all right? Just think, how can I get a balanced narrative? And there are some companies out there that will give you one. All right, maybe hopefully this channel will as well. I know this is this is not biased. This comes from a dude, obviously, that sent me an email. So this is called experience right now. So we're listening to this experience. You got to take care. Be careful. Let's leave it alone now, guys. I wish you the best week. Just do a few press-ups, do a few squats, do a few burpees, and clean that mind out as well. Eat healthy, sleep well. I appreciate your time. Tim Davies, Fast Ship Performance.